I'm Victoria.
I'm Laura.
And welcome to Novel Nights. Hello everyone. Welcome to Novel Nights. Guess what? We're live. We're actually live. So if you're joining us live today, welcome. If it's your first time, also welcome. If you've been watching Novel Nights for a while, but you're also here, thanks for hanging with us. This is our first live for 2025. No pre-recording. We're actually live. So feel free to just drop messages in the comments. We'd love to hear from you because today we are talking about wintry books, specifically books set during winter, right? So we did some completed book series you could hibernate with. Check out that video from last week. Now we're excited to talk about books set during winter, and you're going to get a bit of romance. You're going to get some mysteries and thrillers. You're going to get some literary, some historical fiction, all the things. You're going to get a hodgepodge as well. So get ready for your TBR to topple. But before we get into it, because we are actually live, Fran, what is going on?
So I'm excited this week because we launched a new project. So we've been working on a new blog. Now, that doesn't mean our Under the Covers is going away. Nothing's changing. This is just an addition because we were bored and we needed more projects. And this blog is going to be all mystery. So not just books, although a lot of books, but also TV shows, movies, and podcasts. So anything from cozy mysteries to thrillers to true crime, like all the things. So we're going to be talking about all of that over there. It's called Mysterylandia. You can find it at mysterylandia.com. So that's been the exciting project for the week.
What about you, Laura? You're back home. Welcome.
I am back home after a month in Puerto Rico. It was great. I did get to experience the blackout in Puerto Rico. Do not recommend. Got to experience Bad Bunny being in Puerto Rican TV, like just launching everything and his new CD and everything. So it was a great time in Puerto Rico, but I'm kind of glad to be back, although it's cold. It's like 50 and 60 degrees here, and it's just too cold for me. I know. I live up north. I understand. It's different, but it's different. Once you're down here and you have like 80 degree weather all year round, 60, you just need a coat. So I'm wearing a sweatshirt.
Yeah, it is chilly here in Florida. I won't go as far as say cold because people will come for me. Don't come for me, okay? But it is chilly. I had to do a little trip as well, a little family emergency. So I'm kind of getting back into my groove of things as well. So I'm really excited for the weekend to reset. Content wise, find me on Substack. Okay, I'm sharing all the things on Substack. I'm having a grand old time there. I'm really excited to get back into my workspace. As you all can see, I'm still hanging out here. You are on my dining table, so welcome. But I'm really excited to next week get my shelves sorted and slowly moving back in over the weekend. So next week, join us live and you just might catch me in the new space. So I'm really excited. So yeah, head over to Substack because that's where I've been sharing all the details. But anyway, today is all about wintry books. So like I said, you're going to get a mix, you're going to get a hodgepodge, but also we are live. This is live. So leave your comments with your favorite winter books. I'm going to go first. So I'm going to kick these lovely folks off. But again, yes, let us know in the comments what are some of your favorite books that are set during winter and that are winter themed. So I will be sharing a bit of a hodgepodge of books. Upcoming, Laura is going to do some romance and Fran is going to do mysteries and thrillers. But for me, you're going to get a mix of hodgepodge books. I'm going to share 5. Some are very literary, some are historical, and I even have a classic thriller in there. Okay, so really exciting things. So the first book I want to share with you is Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield. I'm just a big fan of super atmospheric reads, especially during the winter time. And this one is just a really mesmerizing tale. It begins on a winter's night. and it's set at an inn. This is an inn set alongside the River Thames. And the thing about this story is it's a story about stories. So we see storytellers coming together and gathering. And I don't know about y'all, but when I was growing up, we would not just tell stories about our lives and our families and our experiences and, with your friends, but we'd also do like made up stories, whether it's folklore or just stuff from your own imagination. So anyway, this is what these folks are doing at this place, at this inn, and they're gathering and they're telling their usual stories. But then they get interrupted when this man stumbles in with a child in his arms. Now, the child appears lifeless. Okay, we're going to assume this child is dead, but then we see this child miraculously coming back to life. So what we see happening in that moment is, one, we're trying to figure out who this child is, whose family does this child belong to? But at the same time, we're wondering, is this real? Is this really happening? Or is this part of a story or just something, just magical and otherworldly? So there's lots of mystery at the center, but at the core, we're trying to figure, one, is this child real? Who does this child belong to? And all these different things. So what we get is a very, again, atmospheric, but also very rich story that explores community, identity, but again, storytelling. So if you're looking for something that's layered, that's very character driven, but with a touch of mystery and kind of magic-y things, I think this book will really captivate you. I'm a big Diane Setterfield fan, and this one is a standout. Let me know in the comments if you've read Once Upon a River. It's been out for some time now, but also if you haven't, add it to your TBR, but let me know in the comments your favorite book set during winter. Okay, next on the list is A Wild Winter Swan by Gregory Maguire. Now, when I read this book, when it just came out at the time, I remember this book was very divisive amongst Gregory Maguire fans. Gregory Maguire is very beloved, but I just remember this one. It's either people really loved it or they really hated it. So if you read it, let me know in the comments how you felt. I am team, I appreciated it. I understand some of the criticisms, but I'm team, I loved it and I appreciated it, but let me know. This is magical realism. It's set during winter. It's actually set like during the holidays. So we're kind of, going back to the holiday spirit. If you don't want to let go of the holidays, this one is good for you. This is set in the 60s. It's set in New York. It's set in Manhattan. And we're following our main character, who's this young girl. She's a teenager going through all the teenagery girl things. She's struggling to fit in. She's Italian. That's very noteworthy because that's a big theme in the story. And she lives with her very strict Italian grandparents. Something happens to her parents and her family, and she's going through something, which is why she's grieving. I'm not saying what it is just because that's, I don't want to spoil that part for you. But then we see her going through all these different things, but things change when she discovers on her roof a boy with a one wing. So it's like a swan boy with this one wing. Just work with me here. So she discovers him and we see her trying to help him and, one, figure out who he is. Why does he have like this, wing and all these different things? It is explained in the story, right? But it's also kind of like a retelling as well. So this is more of like Gregory Maguire's take on, what's the name of that? The Wild Swans. Thank you. I was trying to remember the name. It's by Hans Christian Andersen. Now, if you are familiar with this story, let me just give you a quick story because this is not a spoiler. So the Hans Christian Andersen tale, it involves some siblings, right? They're all male and they're turned into swans by this evil queen. Now, their sisters, so the boys' sisters consult some fairies to kind of do to make like these shirts, like these kind of jumpers for them, to kind of turn them back into humans once more. But what happens is the last brother, his shirt wasn't like completely made. So for that reason, one arm was uncovered. So that's the reason why he was left with this white, this feathery wing, right? So that is the girl that is the boy the girl found on the roof. So that's how we kind of get the Gregory Maguire story. So if you are familiar with this tale, then you might have already known. But just to give you the backstory, that's what that is. But ultimately, this story is a blend of family drama. We have the fantasy bits, New York City setting, which I love. And it's a really heartfelt read. The debate people have is how true the book is to the Hans Christian Andersen tale and whether some of the details are relevant or not. I would love to chat with you all about this one. It's been a minute. So let me know in the comments again if you've read this one, but also what your thoughts are. Okay. The next book on my list is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. Now, I think Catherine Arden is very popular, and so is this book. But what I don't know, if you all know, is this is the first book in a trilogy. So if you actually like this book, then guess what? There are more books to read. I haven't read the other books. I only read this first book, and I really enjoyed it. So again, this is very fairy tale-y and folklore-y as well. It's set in medieval times in a Russian village, and it follows this one girl who has the ability to see spirits. Now, we have a priest who comes to the village and stuff, and we see the priest the priest is very against the old traditions and ways of the village, right? And we see this priest trying to just suppress all of their like traditions and stuff like that. So we see it leading to conflict and then getting into like a whole battle between ancient magic and just modern ways, more specifically Christianity kind of, coming into play. But this one is really, when I say atmospheric and the definition of like wintry read, it's just very, very atmospheric and rich with descriptions. We're going to get all the snowy landscapes, the forest, this little village, and just everything wintry. It's really immersive. It's very magical, and it's also very chilling. I don't know why I just didn't get around to reading the other two books, but this is the first book in a trilogy. If you all have read the other two books, let me know what you think. But I think this book is textbook definition, wintry read. Okay, next up is The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. Now, I'm a huge fan of The Snow Child. And fun fact, Eowyn Ivey has a new book coming out in 2025. I'm really excited to read it. I'm a huge fan of The Snow Child. I think it was either nominated for or it won a Pulitzer. Don't quote me. I don't remember. I just know it was nominated for something big. I think it was the Pulitzer. I just don't remember if it won. Anyway, this is a really beautiful story. It's very well written, in my opinion, but it's also a bittersweet story. Now, this is set in Alaska, right? And when I think of cold, Alaska is one of them places I think about. So this is set like in the 1920s, 30s, thereabout, and we have this couple. They set up a homestead in Alaska. They're trying to, survive the winter, but also just the environment, the wilderness. It's very remote and everything. This couple, they're married. They don't have any children. And we see them actually outside, like build a child out of snow. It's kind of, I don't want to say odd. You'd have to read it to kind of just see how that whole thing came about. But long story short is they do this. And then soon after, they discover a real girl that's in the place of the snow child that they actually made. Right, hence the title, Snow Child. So now we're starting to wonder, is this child real? Is what they're seeing like, is this child flesh and blood, or is this a figment of their imagination? Is there something, again, magical that they're unaware of? It's a real magical realism novel, but it's really emotional. And we see the story kind of, and this is why I said it was bittersweet at the top, is that it's really exploring love, but also loss and just life in this very harsh landscape. I mean, I gotta say, the winters in this book, very brutal, and just kind of seeing, and again, for the time it was set to, this family setting up homestead in Alaska, this husband and wife couple, it's very compelling to me. I thought it was very well done. I'm curious about what people think about The Snow Child. I didn't really discuss this one much when I read it, but I loved it, and I'd love to know what you think. So let me know in the comments, because I'd love to hear from you. And the last book I want to share with you is a classic, cult classic. If you haven't read this, you need to read it now. Like, this is the perfect time. Perfect time. It's Misery by Stephen King. This is a classic, okay? Classic psychological thriller. This is a darker read. Everything I've shared was very kind of like magical realism in nature. This one is textbook psychological thriller, very dark, Only Stephen King can write these things. But this book in particular, you will not want to put it down. And it's set during a snowstorm, right? So, long story short, because it's a psychological thriller, right? I don't want to say too much, but just know a car accident occurs during a snowstorm. And our main character is a best-selling author. Now, this best-selling author is rescued by his number one fan. Okay. And the number one fan is what's her name again? Annie. And we see things take a dark turn. Because just think about it, someone gets in an accident, you come out, you help this person, you realize, oh my gosh, it's your favorite author, you're their number one fan. You'd think it would be great, but this goes completely left. It gets really dark and sinister because we see said number one fan demand the author write a book just for her. Okay, she is very demanding about it. It is wild. I don't want to say too much about it, but just know this is claustrophobic in the best way. Psychological thriller, textbook. It's just dark. I think because they're snowbound, I think the setting, because the snowstorm and just everything, even after the fact, even after the snowstorm has blown over, it really heightens the tension. This is just a very chilling and unforgettable story. This also has a book to screen adaptation. I actually feel like I should go watch this and then go read the book again. I probably will listen to the audio if it's available at my library so that I can talk to you all about it, because it is a wild, wild ride. But y'all let me know in the comments if you've read any of the books, but also, again, share your favorite winter themed recommendations. I'd love to hear from y'all, and those are my books.
I have to say, you have to watch Misery because Kathy Bates is so good. Like, you just have to watch it. Oh my God.
I'm really excited too. And I'm going to search to see if the library has the audio just to kind of refresh myself. Yeah. The book is wild. I feel like of all the recommendations, I feel you'll have to read that one in particular, especially during winter. I think it will hit very, very, very different. Yeah, I really do. Okay.
I have to say, I'm going to bump it up. Because I actually read a couple thrillers that have the same setup. So I want to see the original, the OG of how it actually was set up.
Stephen King is OG. And knowing Kathy Bates, I'm just like, oh my gosh, that is going to be so iconic. Okay. I mean, this woman in the book is wild. Okay, wild. And I don't know. It hits different. But yeah, I'm really excited to probably go on this book to screen adaptation road. I'm kind of feeling the vibe.
Yeah. Also, I didn't know that the Catherine Arden had 2 more books, so I'm definitely gonna go look that up.
At the time,
news to me.
See, I didn't know it was a trilogy. Like at the time, I just read the book as is, moved on with my life, and then I realized, there are 2 more books. Haven't read them, so there you go. That's another project. That is another project. Okay, so Fran is going to share her books with us next, and they happen to be mysteries and thrillers.
Yeah. Actually, we're going to go pretty much in the same theme as Victoria was just talking about. So a lot of these books are going to be, well, most of these books are more thrillers, and they have the trope of being snowbound. So there's that kind of forest, like all the tension that Victoria was just talking about with the Misery book. I also have a book to screen adaptation in there as well. So I'm excited for that. So I wanted to share thrillers because I'm always sharing a romance. And I feel like winter is a great time for thrillers. I love to read thrillers in winter and summer as well. I find that the more like lighthearted thrillers are great for like beach reads, but these are a little bit heavier and more intense. So the first one that I have to share with you guys is Lucy Foley's The Hunting Party. So this one is about a group of friends that are having like a old college friends reunion, and they decide to go on a for New Year's Eve, they want to go on a cabin. So they rent this lodge. It's very remote in the Scottish Highlands. And they, everything's like picture perfect, like think Instagram worthy place, all snow covered. It's all beautiful. And there is snow starts piling up, so there is a bit of a snowbound trope there as well. And as they are there, there's a lot of tension that builds up between them, because as they thought that they were, this perfect group of friends, all these internal issues and secrets and grudges come up. And on New Year's Day, one of them turns up dead. So, of course, any one of them could have been the killer, because they've now figured out that there's all these issues between them. So, they have to figure out who it is before they all end up dead. And it's just a really interesting take on not just the classic story of, being in a winter thriller that, it's a locked room mystery, but also just like very messy, drama filled relationships. And especially with friendships, you kind of have the classic kind of people characters. You have the perfect couple that is probably not so perfect. You have the single friend who always feels left out. You have the other one that everyone thinks is perfect, but in reality, she's kind of spiraling. So you have all of these typical characters that you're going to find in a group of friends, and things are not always what they seem. So they have to deal with all of that drama and at the same time figure out quickly what's going on before they all end up dead. So if you like, most of these are going to be locked room mysteries, but if you like locked room mysteries with some added messiness and drama, then this is a great one for that. The next book is much more lighthearted. It's actually a cozy mystery, and it's Peril in Paperback by Kate Carlisle. This is part of the Bibliophile Mystery series. Now, this is a really long-running series. So the way I think of her books, because I would definitely recommend any of her books if you also haven't started reading cozy mysteries. Also, if you like cozy mysteries with like a touch of romance, so kind of like a good entry point if you're more of a romance reader. But you can really pick them up out of order. So if there's a story that you like, just pick that up and don't worry about where it's at in the series. So in this series, the Bibliophile Mystery series, we follow Brooklyn, who is a rare book expert. So this one is, as the title of the series would suggest, all about books. This one is the perfect book about books. So if that's what you like, this is the book for you. So she is invited to a birthday party at a mansion, and it's on Lake Tahoe. And at this mansion, they're basically having this giant fun house. There's pinball machines, there's secret passageways, there's trapdoors, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And it's kind of like a game of Clue going on. And as she's there basically to catalog a rare pulp fiction collection, and things of course go a little bit awry when someone at the party is poisoned. And as they dig further, they realize that actually who was meant to be poisoned was the owner of the place, and who obviously was the one that hired her. So she's our amateur sleuth throughout this whole series. So she goes on her little digging for clues and trying to figure out what's going on. And she also figures out that what's happening is also possibly tied to an unpublished memoir that the owner of the house was working on. So it's perfect if you want like very quirky setting and quirky characters, but also characters that have a lot of sass, and a heroine that is not just an amateur sleuth, but it's really smart and determined. So I think it's a great one if you want something a little bit lower stakes. It is my low stakes one from the bunch today. The next one is what I would call a classic when I think of thrillers or mysteries set in winter, and that is Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. So this is also going to be my book to screen adaptation. I'll talk more about that in a second. So I feel like you really can't talk about winter mysteries without talking about this book. I've been a fan of Agatha Christie since I was a kid, and this is one that I've reread many times. Now, I think that this is a great classic locked room mystery, except it's not a locked room. They're in a train, and this train is stuck in a snowdrift. Now, it's got kind of like so another thing, this is part of the Hercule Poirot series, which I actually really love the books in this particular series. So one of my favorites. And everything is very glamorous in this train. He boards the train and everything's, everything very luxurious and everything's great until, of course, there's a murder that happens. And they find this shady businessman that has been stabbed multiple times in his locked cabin. So, of course, who did it? And being that Poirot is there, he's able to, of course, start investigating while they are stuck in the middle of a snowdrift. And everybody that's on board this train is also very shady. Things are not what they seem with everyone that's on there. There's lots of secrets and secret identities and all this stuff happening that he has to try to figure out what's going on, because pretty much everybody wanted this shady businessman dead. So everybody had motive. And the ending, I've always felt that was very, very good. It was a great, one of my favorites in the whole series. And I also think that it's very, like, she does a really great job of building the paranoia in this book. So it's one of those locked room mysteries where you're really, really building up that paranoia of what's going on with every single person. So also builds a great sense of urgency. So I think it has pretty much everything that you would want in just not super scary thriller, but it just is a nice classic mystery. So this one I feel is a must read if you haven't read it before, and you can actually read it and watch the movie. Now, I was a little skeptical of watching this adaptation. I think it came out 6-7 years ago. I can't remember right now. And I reread the book before I watched it. And I think they did a pretty decent job. I went in fully expecting not to like it. And I actually felt that they did pretty good. So I did enjoy it. I do recommend it. And I do recommend that you watch both. You read the book and watch the movie. Now, the next one, we're going back to a thriller. And this one is The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. This one is it's a psychological thriller. It's a little bit wild. So it's another one where you're kind of in the theme of books and writers. So I see a theme going on with our episode today. And in this one, we have the main character is Alex. So she's a struggling writer and gets a golden ticket to attend a month-long retreat at an estate that is run by her idol, who's a feminist horror author. And another person that's going to be at this retreat is her ex-best friend and current rival. And at the start, everything seems to be going great. But of course, the main author that is hosting the retreat is quite intense. And she puts off this challenge that basically everybody has to finish writing a novel by the end of the month. And the best one is going to win a 7-figure publishing deal. So everything is very intense because of that and kind of like that competition of that. But then things also get even more weird when certain things start happening. So it feels very much like a bunch of mind games are happening. And there's a lot of tension as well between the complicated relationships between our main characters. Of course, the ex-best friend, the struggling writer protagonist, and the feminist horror author that is hosting the retreat. So lots of tension between all of these, and then this overarching mystery as well. And they are, of course, in a snowy, isolated setting, which also adds to the claustrophobia of the story. So I think if you like unreliable narrators and more of the dark psychological thrillers, this one is a great option for you. And then the last one that I have for you guys is One by One by Ruth Ware. So Ruth Ware is one of my favorite mystery thriller authors. And one of the reasons that I always enjoy her books, in my opinion, is that I find a lot of commonalities with her writing and Agatha Christie's writing. So I have always really enjoyed her stories. And this one is basically the classic murder mystery story, but it does have a tech startup drama going on in this one, which I find really interesting. I really love how she mixes technology with some of her stories. So this one is set at a luxurious ski chalet in the French Alps. And the team for this tech startup is having a corporate retreat for their app. So on paper, everything's going great. Everything's wonderful. There's beautiful scenery, gourmet food. Everything's great. And then there's an avalanche and they basically get cut off from the outside world. All communication is cut off. And of course, one of them disappears. So the tension is super high in this book. Everyone pretty much has their own agenda. You have the people that are trying to save their jobs, you have the people that want to figure out how to sabotage the team, and the body count starts to rise in this one. So one of them has to be the killer. So it's a very remote setting with the snow. So, of course, adds that isolation, and everything feels like could be a potential death trap. And I think if you like And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, this would be a great comparable to that, with, of course, that different tech involvement as well. So I think overall, these are great options for you if you want a mystery or thriller that is set in the winter, and they're just a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh. I was back here just nodding. Yep. Yep. Sounds about right. Yes. Yes. I mean, let's just start with the last book, the Ruth Ware. First of all, I agree with you 100%. Ruth Ware is one of those authors I recommend to people who love Agatha Christie, but they're trying to find a modern reader. So 100% co-sign
Yeah,
that one.
yeah,
You know, and that's, and again, And Then There Were None, perfect comparable.
yeah.
I love The Writing Retreat. That's the one I wanted to shout out here. I want to tell everybody, read The Writing Retreat. I think it came out 2 winters ago, and I
Yeah.
recommended it in my reading guide. So I think it was like around that winter spring bridge, and it was a standout book. I remember it, and I was like, this book was so good. And then I discovered, going on a tangent, Julia Bart's sister is Andrea Bart, who wrote like some mysteries and thrillers too, and I think she got
Interesting.
picked up by Reese Witherspoon, which blew my mind.
Wow.
I chatted with her on the podcast, and I was like, oh wait. And I was like the dodo bird who did not make the connection. Bart, like I'm not that person who noticed like that. But yeah, they're sisters. But that book is brilliant. The Writing Retreat, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Really excited to see whatever she writes next. Mad on the Orient Express, of course, top tier. I
Classic.
feel that's a Christie you have to work your way up to. The one book, yeah, I don't recommend. Don't read that one first. You got to earn that one. You got to work your way up and earn that one. I love Lucy Foley, also great. Hunting Party. The only one I didn't know was that Cozy. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
now I have a book to add to my list.
Yeah. And I have the Kate Carlisle. Actually, I think I read the first book in the series because I read series starters for Cozy Mysteries. And they're just delightful. And it's a long running series. And a lot of times you can just jump in. So I love the reminder. It's like, don't worry.
Yeah, you can jump in anywhere. And actually, Kate Carlisle has another series that's more like home renovation kind. And that one's also really good.
Ooh, nice. Y'all let us know in the comments what you think about these books. I again, 5 out of 5. I thought those were winners. They were awesome. Okay, all right. So Laura is up next with some warm and fuzzies.
Of course. So as always, I bring the romance and little rom-com, little woman's fiction. I do have a thriller because I do just love that one so much. So that's like the ending of it, just to end it with a winter thriller. But we're going to start with going to Alaska. The first book, it's a series that I want to recommend. It's the Moose Springs Alaska book series by Sarah Munger Taylor. The first book is Tourist Attraction. That starts around fall. And then we get Christmas with Mistletoe and Mr. Right. And then we get to Enjoy the View, which is the last one. So you get to spend a whole season, a couple seasons in Alaska. This is set in a town. It's a tourist trap town in Alaska that people go visit just to go to Alaska. And it's called Moose Springs. And there's a moose, and there's a lot of quirky people in the town. And they're just like, they don't like strangers. They do not agree. And the first one of the series is Zoe. She's like very excited to go to Alaska, and then she stumbles upon this tourist trap, and the owner is like grumpy and doesn't want to help her. And she's like sunshine. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. And of course, they fall in love, and it's beautiful, and it's just wonderful, and it's just like a fun, delightful series. So this is like a really fun, quirky rom-com if you want to like give something to do. The third book in the series is in Kindle Limited. I just confirmed that. But the other 2 books, you can borrow them from the library. You should be able to borrow all 3 from the library. So that's the first book. Then we're going to move into a romantic suspense called Whiteout by Adriana Enders. So we're going to go to Antarctica. So we went for Alaska, and now it's Antarctica. So we're going to go to the other side of the world. And in this book, basically, our protagonist, she's a researcher. She is trying to escape in the wilderness of Antarctica. She's trying to leave her remote research station behind, and she finds herself in the deadly game of survival when the base is attacked. So, I really think about it. Like you're snowbound, you're stuck in Alaska, and you know there's not a lot of people, and there's no planes coming in. And so she teams up with Ford Cooper, who is a brilliant but gruff glaciologist, so someone who deals with glaciers, and they try to escape the Arctic Antarctica. There's a couple books, I think there's a couple books in the series, but this is a standalone that you can just read in one setting, and you just get to do. I don't know about you, but I've been seeing a lot of people going to Patagonia lately, so I'm like, well, maybe this is like around that place. So that's pretty much Whiteout by Edwina Enders. The next book is actually it's Josie Silver's A Winter in New York. She's really known for One Day December, which is another winter book. But this one is her latest release, or it came out this year or last year. And basically, it's set in New York City, starts in the fall, and ends in the winter time. There's some Christmas and not a lot of Christmas. And it's sad about like basically these two families have a gelato recipe. They don't know that they have it. So he is part of an Italian family and has a gelateria in Little Italy, New York. And this British lady comes to New York to find herself and find her. She always wanted to be in New York, and she wants to just do this. And she happens to meet this guy, like a happens situation. He's gelato recipe is gone. So because it's a family recipe, it's like a secret recipe, and he's trying to find it. And she actually knows the recipe because her mom knew the recipe, and so it's a whole gelato. Think about it, like just drinking gelato, just having gelato in the winter. It's just still delicious. So this is like a family drama. It's set in New York. It's so like fresh out of water kind of a deal. So this was just a delightful winter, a winter in New York. What better place to do? I do appreciate going to New York. I don't appreciate going to New York in January and February. I've lived in New York, but do not recommend. But December, November, that's a good time to go to New York. So now we're going to go to Britain, and we're going to go to This Time Next Year by Sophie Cousins. So this one's a New Year's Day book. So both the protagonists were born the first day of January 1st, 1990. And the first baby was born, and the second baby was not born. And so the heroine is the second baby, and she feels she's unlucky because the firstborn twin basically won her prize. And so she's been unlucky in love, and they're like time traveling, they're connecting with each other over time. And so it's just like this funny kind of like think about fate and think about like the idea of like how many chances you can meet each other. So This Time Next Year is a New Year's, but it's still like you can read it now. It's January, so we're still celebrating New Year, so you might as well. And it's set in London. The next one is Baggage Claim by Juliana Smith. So this is your typical rom-com. It's available in Unlimited. It's set in Aspen, Colorado. So the heroine has to go back home for her family. And she told her family she had a boyfriend because they're all like, well, we're going to get together or something. And so the guy who was sitting next to her in the flight said, I'll be your boyfriend, whatever. And so they're actually pretending to be each other's boyfriend, girlfriend, kind of fake relationship. And so they're just doing all this wintry, like it's a little bit Christmas, but not too Christmassy. So it's a more wintry, like, think about skiing and Aspen and all the fun stuff, all the winter village activities they get to do together. So that's Baggage Claim. The audiobook, it's available in Unlimited, but the audiobook is available at the library. So, and I think it might be at Hoopla. Don't quote me on that, but it's likely to be in the library for the audiobook. And the final book that I want to talk about is No Exit by Taylor Adams. This is a thriller. This is not a romance. There's no romantic elements here. It is a thriller set in a rest stop. So basically, the heroine has to, for some reason, she had to drive in the middle of the night, and she ran out of gas or something, and they ended up in the rest stop. And there's a killer on the loose, and there's a movie adaptation. There's like a whole thing, and you're just trying to figure out how they're gonna get out of this rest stop because it's snowbound. There's a blizzard happening, and you just kind of like, you're just an intense 24-hour period of like, or I think it's like 12-hour period where you just don't know how this is going to resolve, and people die, and people like, there's more incrimination and more things, and you're just like, what am I supposed to do? So this was no exit. It's just totally, you're just stuck in a rest stop and you just can't get out. So, and those are my recommendations.
Yay! I love Taylor Adams, by the way. Again, I love a good thriller, but I was so happy to see you recommended A Winter in New York by what's her name? Josie Silver. Because everyone is always recommending the December one, which God bless, I love it. But this one is good too. I really love it. I'm here for the family drama. Okay? I like it. So
And it's just the latter.
I love it. And Sophie Cousins, I love Sophie Cousins too. So yeah, exciting reads. But
Right.
y'all let us know in the comments what winter books are your favorites. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, so share them in the comments. Replay crew, if you're watching the replay, leave a comment too. We'd love to get your recommendations. All right. So what else do we have going on? Well, first things first, we are back live. Okay. So live, not a pre-recording. We're not shading the pre-recordings because it saves us. But we want to share some upcoming shows with you. So next week, we're going to do some magical realism to cozy up with. Again, I don't know what it is about winter, but I just feel magical realism is, top tier reading material during
Yes.
this time. We both shared books. I think we all shared books in Alaska today, but we're going to come with even more because, again, you think Alaska, it's wintry. So
Yes.
we're doing some armchair traveling. We're going to Alaska, so be sure to tune into that at the end of the month. And of course, we're kicking off February with some epic romance stories. So be sure to tune in. Again, we gather here every Thursday at 5 p.m. 7 p.m. I'm thinking about my book mail. My book mail is 5. Sorry. Every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Okay. 7 p.m. Eastern time every Thursday. We come for the live show. The 5 p.m. is my Sunday thing. Sorry. All right. In other news, if you're looking for more winter recommendations, I have the winter reading guide. It's available exclusively over on Substack, so head over there. We are also all on Substack, so pop over there as well. Francesca also has Romanceopoly. I don't know why that did that, but tell us about it.
Just be in the head.
So Romance Happily kicked off this January. It's our year-long reading challenge, which I hope you guys can come and join. We have lots of prompts. It's basically you work your way through a board, and you have different reading prompts that you would complete throughout the year. There are seasonal events. We're going to have our first seasonal event coming in February. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be announcing what that is. And basically, all the books that I talked about today would fit for one of the Romanceopoly prompts, and that would be for the Frosty Bistro. So if you are doing Romanceopoly already, you know about it, then the books that I talk about today, those are all great for that prompt. But yeah, just it's a great way to read a good variety of books, whether that is different kind of authors, different kind of genres, subgenres, try something maybe that you haven't read before. So, and have fun with it.
Yes. Again, all the information, romanceopoly.com. Again, you can also find some info like I did today over on the Substack because you can get that printable, okay? And that printable legit saved my life today. So head over to our Substacks, right? You'll find links in the video's description. And once you sign up for one, you'll be prompted to sign up for all of them. But again, we hope you'll join us next week, again, 7 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. New York time, for our upcoming shows. We have Magical Realism the following week, Alaska, and then we're going to get into some romance for Valentine's. But I think that's it for today's show.
Yeah.
So again, we hope to see you all next week. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and everyone's popping off right now as we say